So shall we get started at 6:05? We were just waiting for a quorum. Glad you guys are all here. Welcome to the August 3rd, 2021 meeting of the Community Relations Committee. We would like to thank Easthampton Media for recording tonight's meeting. All past meetings of the CRC can be found on our city website for viewing at any time. All committee members and participants in this meeting are gathered remotely during the COVID-19 pandemic under executive order of Governor Baker on March 12, 2020, as extended by him on June 16, 2021, allowing us to do so. For the benefit of those of you who are joining us from the community or viewing this after the fact, I'd like to start this meeting by sharing our committee's mission statement. Our mission is to promote positive relations throughout Easthampton's diverse population. We will work to build a sense of inclusion, community, and pride where community members feel welcome, accepted, and valued. We will begin this meeting with a roll call. Rebecca Passa.
Here.
Patty Dougherty.
Here.
Emily Britton.
Here.
Margaret Kirstein.
Here.
Jan Norman.
Here.
Myra Oyedemi. Not here. Gabby Stevenson. Not present. Deborah Lucnia present. Okay, so we do have a quorum and we will proceed. First on the agenda is the approval of minutes from our meeting on July 13th, 2021, which Rebecca sent out to us a while back. Well, first let's have a motion and a second, and then we'll open it up for discussion.
Motion to approve.
I'd like to make a comment, which is that Emily was astute enough to look at them and offer a change, and I do believe I sent everyone one with the yellow highlighted change.
Yes.
So if you've seen that, you might consider a motion as changed.
Sure, motion to approve as changed.
Okay.
Sorry to butt in, but.
No, that's okay. Is there a second? Okay, we have a motion. It's been seconded. So I'll now open it up for discussion. Does anyone have any comments, suggestions, any discussion about the minutes? I had one thing that was striking me odd, and that is I'm wondering, when we had the approval of minutes last time, it's indicated that we had a vote of 3 in favor and 3 abstaining. And I'm wondering, is that exactly right? Because then how was it able to pass if we only had 3 voting to approve out of 6? Like we would have needed 4 out of 6.
I was relying on you, but I'm pretty sure that we had 3 yes. And maybe
Okay.
I don't know the effect of abstain. Is that good enough for a no, even if it's really an abstain? And you're saying that it has to pass by a majority of people there, maybe.
Right,
So that
right. So if we had 6 present, and I'm just reading this saying we had 3 voting in favor.
But the
Does
other three people hadn't been there at the meeting, so that's why they abstained.
Yeah, I understand, but I think
May I make a motion to ratify our approval of the minutes? I mean, because that's a good point, and I think the solution would be to then just make sure we approve them now, to ratify what we did. If, unless, of course, everybody's going to say that they're abstaining today, but you want to try that? We could try it again the next time, too.
So, yeah, okay. I'm just trying to think what's appropriate, what's we're supposed to do in a situation like this.
Can't for people who abstained, I abstained because I hadn't read them, but now I have. So can't we do the vote again and we can just approve them?
Okay, so what we could do,
Change my
yes.
name,
Okay,
motion.
we could vote again. We could vote, I guess, we can vote again and then change these minutes to.
Well, I think we would reflect it in our new minutes, saying the concern was raised that the prior vote really wasn't good and valid. Therefore, we re-voted and ratified what we did.
Okay, all right, that sounds good. Okay, so what do we do about, okay, so, all right, the thing is, we have a motion on the floor.
My new motion is to vote to ratify, basically, it's the same vote to approve, but to ratify the approval of the minutes of June 29th, 2021. And a yes
Okay.
vote would mean that, yes, we agree that they're approved and we ratify our prior.
Okay, so we will approve, we're first going to approve these minutes with that notation made. And, okay, so I'll ask for, we have the motion on the floor. Do we have a second to what Rebecca just stated?
Second.
Patty seconding it. Okay, so then let's do the roll call to vote on that. Rebecca
Okay.
Passa.
Approve.
Patty Dougherty.
Approve.
Emily Britton.
Abstain because I wasn't at the meeting when the minutes were first approved, and I don't believe I've read them. Or
Okay.
It certainly has been so long. Actually, I think I did, but it's been so long that I couldn't tell you. So,
Okay.
sorry.
Margaret Kirstein.
Accept.
Okay. Jan Norman.
Approve.
Okay. Myra's not here, Gabby's not here, and I'll approve also. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to approve, so we are good. All right. So now we're going back and we are re-voting on the minutes from, wait,
Honestly,
we're
I don't see a need. I mean,
okay, all right.
my motion was at least intended to ratify our prior vote to approve those minutes, and with 5 people out of 6 saying yes, I would feel comfortable that we,
We're done, we're set.
that we
Okay.
intended to approve them, and we're now doubling sure that we've approved them. And thank you for your vote of support. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. I'm sorry, this is just a lot. All right, we'll move on. Very good, thank you very much. Okay,
So did we approve the last week's minutes?
So we began by
That's-
voting on July, let's see,
13th.
right, July 13th.
Do we need to approve those minutes still? I thought we were
Yeah.
just voting to approve the other minutes.
I think that vote was, oh, did we not vote?
We didn't vote.
Okay. Oh, we didn't vote. I'm sorry. Let's vote on the last minutes.
Yep, so let's,
Okay, so we do need to move, do need to vote then on the July 13th.
right,
Okay, do we have a motion?
the motion.
All right, we have a motion to approve the minutes for the meeting on July 13th, 2021.
Margaret just seconded it.
Second.
Margaret seconded it. Okay, is there any discussion, comments, suggestions? No, okay, so we'll vote. Vote to approve, Rebecca Passa,
Yes, approved.
Patty Dougherty,
Yes.
Emily Britton.
Abstain because I wasn't at the July 13th meeting, and my comment to Rebecca had been simply about clarifying her language, that's all, or her words.
Okay,
Abstain.
Margaret Kirstein,
Approve.
Jan Norman.
Approved.
Okay, Myra's absent, Gabby's absent, Deborah Lusnia approve. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 approvals, so motion passes, minutes are approved. Thank you very much. Okay. Sorry, it's a little bit much for my small brain. Okay, announcements. I don't believe we have any announcements. Does everyone concur with that?
Do we include correspondence with that?
Yes.
I'm in receipt of an email from Patty that was communication from the mayor, right? Do you want to refer to that?
We have that on the agenda later.
Oh,
So-
okay. So
yeah.
that's, right, so that's not an issue. Okay,
Right, so we'll discuss that a little bit later on.
okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Anything else? No. Okay, very good. So we'll move to public speak. At this time, if any member of the public would like to speak to the committee, you're welcome to do so. If you'd like to speak, use the raise your hand feature by selecting the participants option at the bottom of your screen, then click raise hand at the bottom of the participants window. If you're dialing in by phone only, you can raise your hand by pressing *9. Please remain on mute until you're called, at which point you can unmute yourself. When it's your turn to speak, we will ask you to state your name and the address of your residence before addressing the committee. I'd also like to remind everyone that the members of the committee cannot respond to comments made during public speak. We ask that you remain respectful and direct your comments only to the committee members. There will be a 3-minute time limit for those who wish to speak.
I'm the only one here. I'm good. I'm good. Saying
You're all
hi.
Okay, well, thank you very much for attending with us. Thank you. Okay, if there is no one else interested in speaking to the committee, we will close public speak officially and move on to item 5 on our agenda, which is our strategic planning session with Derek Dean from the Department of Justice. And at this time, I will turn the floor over to him. Thank you for being with us, Derek.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. Let me share. Let's see here if I can share my screen. Share screen. Okay, good. Go to slideshow. All right. So tonight is the agenda is to review the survey results from prioritizing the committee, prioritizing the recommendations that were provided in the mayor's working group on police reform, Blueprint Easthampton, and the founding ordinance for the Community Relations Committee. Oops. Oops. So we received 7 out of 8 possible responses from the committee. The typical time spent filling out a response was 21 minutes, 10 seconds. So that was the investment in time. I appreciate that. And then there's a distribution, and there was some clear winners in regards to what the committee thought the priority issues should be. And so just to keep the suspense going, I've started with number 12, and we'll work our way down to the number 1 issue. So the first issue out of 12 was this: to study the nature and causes of barriers to preserving a welcoming community through a review of the language in the city's ordinances and community policies and make recommendations for improvement. This received the least votes in terms of ranking. It scored 3.8. It was ranked last. Second was a rather lengthy set of recommendations that came out of the working group on police reform. And it was create at least 1 new staff position to work with the Community Relations Committee, the hiring of an independent civilian investigator, or through the establishment of an advisory and review commission, and/or engage a core group of residents to examine, study, and recommend external oversight frameworks and/or mechanisms. For example, hire 1 more state paid staff position, such as the Director of Human Relations or Human Relations Administrator, an intake worker to help manage complaints, and then create a police advisory review board with broad membership and representation, create an alternative avenue for filing complaints for community members who do not wish to file a complaint. The police department to ensure that the complaint process is clear, easy to access, etc. Take complaints in person, in writing, online, etc. That was ranked number 11. They received a score of 4.2. Next is review and advise the Easthampton Police Department on at least monthly or quarterly basis on the agency-wide review on bias-based policing, the annual use of force, a report on the One Mind campaign that calls for determining what % of calls for service involve mental health in the department's restorative justice program. That was ranked 10 and received a score of 4.4. Collaborate with Easthampton Police to outline a desired cultural end state between law enforcement and the community. That was ranked 9 and received a score of 6.0. And then there was assist in the development of public information and programs aimed at enhancing the quality of life in Easthampton. That was ranked 8 and received a score of 6.6. Host regular community dialogues around the issue of public safety with adequate capacity building and resources. The CRC might offer a mechanism for improving relations and communication by building relationships with diverse groups, organizations, neighborhoods, and promoting intergroup cooperation. Ranked 7, 6.86. Again, a jump in scores here for the next one. Promote strong neighborhoods and community connections, i.e. community mapping. Ranked 6. Periodically promote educational opportunities for the community related to strengthening intergroup and community relations, i.e. undoing racism workshops. That ranked 5. It was actually tied 5 and 6. They both received 8.29 scores. Enlist the cooperation of other government agencies, groups, organizations, and individuals in the community attentive to community relations. Ranked 4, score of 8.5. Foster through education and public information, a general awareness and understanding of community relations and city operations. Was ranked 3, score of 9.0. Then the last, engage residents and businesses through developing or supporting programs, events, and projects that support the commission's purpose. That was ranked 1 and 2, I believe in one iteration. It was on the survey twice. In each iteration of the survey, this was the number 1 ranking. And so I combined the two sets of votes. The average between those two rankings were 9.67, the clear winner, with a score of 9.67 on average. And so it ranked, because it was on there twice, 1 and 2, and then the above was 3. But again, engage residents and businesses through developing or supporting programs, events and projects to support the commission's purpose was the number 1 issue. I can go back and revisit any of those if you'd like, or if you want to see the list one more time. But the ones that received the lowest score had to do with engaging Easthampton Police. The ones that had to do with just kind of broad community relations, building relationships and engaging the community in education and dialogue seemed to receive the highest scores. There were a couple of write-in options provided on the survey as well. The write-ins, they said, I think the idea of paid staff is intriguing, but not necessarily as described above. And the above, it was to hire a director or an investigator or intake person. Gather data, survey residents and those with invested interest in Easthampton businesses on what actions and programs they'd like to see the CRC engage in. So one of the suggestions that were write-in was to do a survey of residents in Easthampton to see what they would like to see the CRC engage in. Enlisting cooperation of other government agencies. This seems important since there are council subcommittees doing some of this work. And in particular, in the last meeting, it came up with in regards to a review of city ordinances and policies, et cetera. There's a committee created just to do that, although it was outlined in the founding ordinance, I believe, for the committee, that the CRC could engage in that work. And then ratings 1 through 5 all go together and are ordered as places to start. The order of ratings 1 through 5 can be adjusted, meet the CRC processes that are set up. FYI, 2 of the same items are listed. So yeah, that's where I had it listed twice. Items not rated are not wanted as CRC strategic planning goals. The investigatory role is rated as number 12 since it is inappropriate to our skills, functioning, organization, or budget for staffing. So someone just, I think, gave reasoning as to why they ranked the survey as they did. So at this point, if you were to take a look at kind of the top 5, issues that the CRC would take on, it would be promote strong neighborhoods and community connections, periodically promote educational opportunities for the community related to strengthening intergroup and community relations, enlist the cooperation of other government agencies, groups, organizations, and individuals in the community, tentative community relations, foster through education and public information and general awareness, understanding community relations and city operations, engage residents and businesses through developing and supporting programs that support the commission's purpose. So with that, I thought that we could discuss the top 5. We could discuss any of these issues actually, but discuss the top 5 recommendations. Take a look, discuss the urgency and need, the community institution or the institutional impact. By institution, I mean the government or the CRC. The CRC's capacity to do that kind of programming, the community's capacity to engage that kind of programming, any required resources, training, funding, or staffing. The top 5 are very similar, but I'll open it up for discussion in terms of what those top 5 are and what the committee thinks.
Excuse me, Derek, is there a way for the top 5 to just be on the screen?
I will dare say yes. Let me go back. Here, I know how to do this. So we'll take. That's not the one. Let me try this one more time. 1, 2. Take these 2.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, just opening it up for discussion.
It basically seems like it's reflective of what we kind of assumed from the beginning and built our mission statement and our goals from the beginning on. Very similar.
So there's no surprises here for you, Deb?
Correct.
So Patty, before we lose you, any surprises?
She disappeared.
Oh, there she is. Patty, I was just going to check in with you before you left. In terms of the top 5 recommendations, were there any surprises or anything that you saw on that list?
No, I think this is what I always figured our mission was from when I joined.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes?
Well, I guess I have several questions. One is, what should be the end goal of our discussion right now?
Okay.
And then, do we still have money to spend in 2021 on any of this? And can we do anything if the mayor has, plans for our committee per that email that Patty forwarded?
So it looks like, I liked what, Derek, what you had on that page where you sort of had a slots for near-term goals, long-term goals. Yeah. So I would think that, I think that's a good way to maybe couch the discussion around which are those things we can do. And I do think we just need to clarify what the funding is with the mayor. But I do think there is funding, but I can't answer what it is, or at least not now, not today. And I guess not to get too far into that conversation, but one of the things that the mayor, I think, emphatically said was that anything that comes out of the mayor's report, whatever it's called, sorry, I'm spacing on the name of it, is recommendations to us, and that we will make the ultimate decisions about how to drive what we're doing forward. So I would say we need to keep, I would say that what we're doing now and the things we want to do don't seem outside of what we will be able to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just would add, I just thought the mayor was very clear about the fact that she wants to supply us with resources to accomplish our objectives, and that's her goal, and she's planning to do that. So that's not completely defined at this moment in time, but that she fully intends to supply whatever resources we need to accomplish our goals and objectives. And what was the other question Emily had?
Well, I think it was a question around whether we are going to have the latitude to do these things.
Right. And she also seemed pretty clear that we will be the group that decides ultimately what we're going to focus on, what our mission is, what our goals and objectives will be. I thought.
In some regard, I think you may even have to, there are going to be some folks who would like to see the CRC maybe take on more. And so again, hopefully this process will help the committee clarify kind of why you decided on the programs or projects that you have.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't seem to be, resource heavy in terms of funding. These five, it would really be kind of brainstorming creative ways to create strong community connections. Doing racism workshops, that could be an expense where you're bringing in subject matter experts or speakers or other programming.
Mm-hmm.
The others is just networking and convening dialogue.
Could you explain, Derek, what community mapping means?
Yeah, so we had this 2 meetings ago, I think, when we went through the list. It was in the Blueprint Easthampton report.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have that on my desk at the moment, but community mapping seems to be this way where you take and you look at cultural, economic, social assets within micro neighborhoods, if you will. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. So like in my neighborhood, for this one small, I live in one part of town, but then this part of town is divided basically in 2 halves. So community mapping would be taking a look at resources or assets in both halves. Mm-hmm. And what can we do to create a greater whole? Or if like one half of my neighborhood feels like he doesn't have all the resources, then how do we make sure that they feel that there's a certain amount of equity? So it's just taking a look at and this is me guessing, you'd have to ask Dr. Campbell for sure, but it's a way of just kind of measuring the capacity of communities on a very micro level, again, economically, socially, culturally, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And it's the way it was written, it seemed like that would be, again, an expenditure to have some organization or consultant do the community mapping.
Okay.
The rank number 5 also came out of the Blueprint Easthampton. And as a recommendation, and I believe the last 3 are from your founding ordinance. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The one thing I think is really nice is the fact that it seems like in general, as a group, we're pretty much on the same page. And I think that that's nice.
Yeah.
That helps.
Yeah. 9.67 is a pretty strong score. So yeah, they pretty much everyone ranked that high, their highest. So in terms of urgency, since this came out of the Blueprint Easthampton, there is some, I guess, momentum for having this, and it was a recommendation specific to the CRC. So there's some momentum through that report to have the group take that on. And again, in terms of training or funding, I think it's at a minimal. In terms of staffing, I think everything on that list could be done with volunteers as the CRC is currently configured.
Derek, could you flip back to the descriptions again, please? Thanks. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So Jan, I'm curious, what are your thoughts?
I was quite interested in the aspect of the second one, I guess, rank 3, where I think having people having some understanding of what's going on within their town, what's available to them, and having, I guess, access to all kinds of information, instead of finding out, years later, or, what might be available, for their children, what this town has available. Years ago, I used to go to some of the other neighborhoods personally, and talking with, knocking on doors, talking with some parents, I can help you with your child with this. We can do certain things. Yes, there's some money involved, but we can work that out. Just anything where, you have people who may not necessarily, because I think most of us on this panel, we want to know things. We want to know information. We want to gain information. that would benefit our own lives, but also others. But for other people to have that same type of, or similar, not same, but similar, trying to think of the word I want to use. Just having that available, and then they have the info. Then it's up to them to sort of say, okay, what they want to be involved in and what could be useful for them, and then they again having the information may help them to be more confident, and maybe even come into some of the town meetings, and those types of things. So I don't know. Information is just it's just so powerful, for people, and like I said, it's to help people to understand what they have here. I mean, there are people here who come from other places, Boston or whatnot, and this is a very, I don't like to use this word, but kind of foreign, just where people sometimes don't always feel that they fit within this community. And
is it hard to fit in? Is it hard to fit into Easthampton, you think?
I think, I've been here for almost 30 years. I thought at the beginning it was a little bit of a closed off community. People have to generally get to know each other. But it's, I don't know. I mean, I'm one person, and I can't really, I think make a blanket statement of what I'd only have to speak of my own experience. And I think getting involved, I'm in the school system, getting involved in the sporting programs here, getting involved in other aspects of some of the sporting, but I had to step into that and make that decision. Some people, they're not very familiar or confident in what they can be involved in here. So I think having anything that would help people feel that they can become more involved within their community is a positive thing. And I think they need to have information to do that.
So, John, what I'm hearing you say really is that you think the ranked number 3, but second from the bottom, the education and public information pieces should be a high priority?
I see it as crucial. I see it as crucial. I think even having people, understand something is, I don't want to say simple, but, what, our public education, system can offer, children here. A number of things that people don't have information about. I remember years ago, we had this thing where we were trying to take that to the public. We had this wonderful PR person. Was it PR? Yeah, public relations person, Deb Luznia, get involved in that. If you remember that, Deb, many years ago, with our superintendent, Deb Carter. And it was to bring information to, the greater Easthampton community of what our schools were offering. And I think that's just one entity, of this town.
Jan, to go and support what you're saying, I said this at our last meeting, was that only through Derek did most of us ever hear of Blueprint Easthampton. We are a committee of, I don't know exactly how many committees there are in the town of Easthampton, but we should have been notified that that was going to be happening, or that it had happened, or that there was a report. What information would be more important to us than something like that? Right? And I find, sometimes I blame myself because I'm not on Facebook. And, but the lack of information about the things that go on in Easthampton is astounding to me. And the lack of information and ways that things are communicated is non-existent as far as I can tell. Maybe if I was on Facebook, I would feel differently.
I don't know. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, the reason I heard that when they first came up with this committee, or they were having this big meeting, and they had invited so many people from the town. It was right before CRC started, and I heard something. I think, I think my wife said something about there's just going to be this meeting. I'm like, really? So I called the police chief, and I asked him about it, and he invited me in, and it was the day before the meeting, and I got permission from our principal to attend for that day. So, like I said, I don't like to have, not know things or not have enough information out there where it's easier to find out, like you said, with these things that.
Yeah, I also found out through the back door, only after it had already had one meeting, that, one of the select people, Omar Gomez, who was on the mayor's work group around reimagining policing, was doing community listening sessions about it. Well, I mean, I really think Omar works his butt off, but how come he didn't contact CRC about it? How come, as one of 4 members of that group, he didn't send me an email? You know what I mean? Well, actually, I take that back. I stopped receiving emails for a period of time on my email address. So you know what? I did find that he did send me it. That's true. But CRC, the committee, should have been notified.
Right.
Or that I think Myra told us that there was already a group that was going through all the ordinances, but CRC was not notified of this. These are the kind of notices that everyone should get. And if official appointed committees don't get information, no one gets information. I mean, I just feel like, I don't know how other towns operate it. I've never been a committee member, doing this kind of, I've been a board member, but not doing this kind of public service. And the lack of communication is outstanding to me.
Margaret, thank you. I'm going to jump in real quick because I apologize. I have to run to an appointment. I agree. I think it's always been hard to find out what's going on. I think there are people that are dialed in probably just through their own social networks. And I agree. I think if it's hard for us to get information, then how is somebody who's not connected at all getting information? And that's why I agree. I think that one, I feel like for a while, one of the things I was excited about for the CRC to do was to connect people to what was happening in their government. And I know we had that language when we were, 2 years ago when we were talking about this. And it is, I think people don't, I hate to say it's all PR and marketing, but I think taking a strategic look at how people in this community are supposed to know what's happening, not just the few that are really active and really dialed in, I think would be an important thing for us to do. Because guess what? If people aren't dialed in and we want to hold events, who's going to come if they don't know what's going on?
Right.
So I'm going to have to leave you all with that. I really apologize. I just could not get another appointment for my back. So good luck tonight, and I look forward to finding out how the rest of the meeting goes.
Take care, Patty. Good luck
Patty.
now.
All right, bye-bye.
See, I want to ask you a question. Cable access. years ago when I did have cable, any town I grew up in a town had a huge cable access station, so you could find out a lot of information. And when I first moved here to Northampton, and I flipped that on, because that was one way I found out what was happening in the town. And I'm wondering if some of this information, especially what you brought up, Margaret, and I'm going to check online because I can do this online, but if cable access is still carrying a lot of information from the town, if anyone knows that. Myra?
I am still one of those who has the local access, although that may change. I do see a number of the meetings on being presented, not via YouTube, but on, I think it's 191, 192. Occasionally the school committee meeting or the city council. And then there's usually some very general basic information. It's been related to like COVID though. But I think that would be a useful tool if there was an updated ticker, for instance, for those who aren't on accessing things via the web.
Right.
And you had me really thinking. I think you brought up some really good points. Yeah. So when I moved, so I can say I moved recently here, it was really difficult to know anything about the town, city. When there were meetings, what events were happening, other than the occasional signage that I would pass by, like, oh, this place has a winter festival. How nice. I didn't know except for passing by the sign. So that got me thinking, maybe that would be something that we can do is like, and I don't know in our ever-changing times of health crisis here, how it can happen, but if we have special evenings like centered around specific demographics, like we can have youth development, like what does that look like in the town of this? I want to keep saying town, in the city of Easthampton, like what programs are out there for youth? What things are out there for seniors, etc. And that can be a way to draw people in. And in terms of, like, I do on occasion watch more than my fair share of meetings, which I've stopped over some vacation, and sorry for being late because I kind of forgot about everybody. So anyway, maybe those who are dialed in, as well as those who are maybe committee chairs, they could give they could be invited guests of the group for the evening and talk about what's happening either in affordable housing or what's happening in terms of the Disability Commission, what's happening in terms of that. So then we have like interaction and like cross communication between committees, which I think would be good, and also bring in the community. But who knows with COVID, like what that can look like, if it's more virtual or if it's more in person. But I do agree with, people seeing the need for a committee. Also, they need to know what's happening before they're invested. And let me just stop talking for a minute.
Myra, if I may say, good seeing you. You snuck in on right there at the beginning, so
I was not. Sorry.
So just no apologies. I'm just welcome. I'm glad you're here. So from the dialogue that I'm hearing, the conversation is really centered around rank number 3, which is about the programs and resources, etc. Number 4, strategically engaging in connections with the government, various committees, and other things that are going on around town, so that you're not only connected, but you can convey that information as well. And then number 1, kind of leveraging what's already happening in the community to further your mission. That's just from this dialogue is where the conversation's kind of generically gone. We haven't spent too much time on the rank 6 and 5. Maybe the community mapping can help identify some of those micro resources out there for the resources program education initiatives, the communication type pieces. But it seems like the group from tonight's discussion is really focused on 4, 3, and 1.
Derek,
Yes.
can I add? Because I'm looking at 1 and 2 and 3.
Yeah.
It seems like if you have that going on, things like number 6 get covered.
Okay. Yeah. No, that I agree. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Without the community mapping, it just generically happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. And I want to say in that report, when I looked it over, the community mapping was talking about specific communities like the Treehouse community, the Cottage Street community, and I forgot other ones. Oh,
Parsons?
Yes.
And Pleasant Street?
That but could possibly be. It's been a few weeks now that I've looked at it. But I was going to say, so I know that the Undoing Racism workshop is scheduled. And as the CRC, do we have access to that? It's scheduled for October.
Who scheduled it?
Whoa.
Myra, I'm sorry, I know nothing about it. Who scheduled it?
Well, maybe I spilled the beans then. I just know that they have invited community members and that it was rescheduled for October. So if we have that Undoing workshops and it's if we can link ourselves in because it's something that's already being paid for.
I'm just curious, Deb, did you know anything about it?
No. Mm-mm.
Because, this is one of the things that we had talked about, promoting that kind of a training.
Right.
And it doesn't matter who does it. It's just interesting. There's a lot of things. There's just from the sublime to the ridiculous that's going on that the CRC is out of the loop.
For now.
I think on some level too, that the broader issue regarding communication is complicated by the fact that our communities used to rely on the local newspaper a lot for everybody being informed. And it used to be an effective way even to get information out about, through press releases, like Jan mentioned. We used to be able to communicate a lot through our local newspaper, and so many in the community subscribed to it. And at least if they didn't, they heard about things from others who did. It was just like our main our main way to communicate with people. And now, of course, that's really diminished so substantially that it's not really a reliable source at all for getting things broadcast in a big way. And we're kind of in this weird place, I think, as a society where you've got pockets, like you've got a Facebook group, Facebook people, and you've got some people that still subscribe to a newspaper, but they're not covering news like they used to either. They're not promoting it a lot of what they used to cover. It's just not the same animal. But there's no singular primary source out there anymore. And I think that having the newspaper go away, and even to a large extent, some of the local news isn't a focus for people. Even television news local news isn't a focus for people anymore. So I with all that changing and all that going away, I feel like we're in this weird place where we don't have a primary source for news and information for our communities. And I'm not sure what the answer is, but I think it's reflective of a larger shift in our culture and larger shift in society that has created some of this problem.
So I'm going to pause there. I know we haven't heard from Rebecca in detail. So Rebecca, I'm inviting you if you have thoughts to share them. But also wanted to kind of go beyond the discussion then to actually, with the 3 things that the committee seems to be focused on and have consensus on, is then how do we make those from ideas and recommendations to actual reality where these don't become issues, they become assets for the for the committee. And so that would be going through an action planning process, taking each one of these topics, 3, 4, and 1, and walking through a process that talks about having the committee discuss what needs to happen to make this a reality, who's responsible, when is it due, and then also what other parties need to be included, for what purpose, what role will they play, as well as if you're doing certain programs, we need to consider what happens before an event or before a program is launched, or before you start, it could be, do I need funding first type of thing. But if there's a stage to these programs or projects, then we need to identify what those are and action plan around those. And then last, contingencies. If you don't get one thing, what's a plan B to work around it? So again, that we're assuring success so that these ideas come to fruition. So that's what I envision. I know that there's a time check here too, but just wanted to let you guys know that in my mind, the next step would be to action plan 3, 4, and 1. Any objections to doing that? And then by the time we're done, this group will completely know not only what it is you're trying to accomplish, but who's going to do it and when.
Sounds good.
Definitely.
So I think my first question, based on the responses here and based on what we reviewed about the types of CRCs, would this comfortably fit into the advisory definition, do you think?
No, this would solidly fit into the facilitative definition of a CRC.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So is that like one decision the committee would clarify, that we're looking at being a facilitator type of CRC? And then go from there on what those CRCs do. One thing I have wondered before, and still, when we were first forming, we allegedly had a liaison with the police. That would be great to have that person for communication back and forth. I've also thought that it might be valuable to have a member of the city council be a liaison for communication purposes. You know, whether they attend our meeting or not is one thing, but maybe if we had a liaison where we could get updates from and we could ask questions of, that'd be valuable. So I feel like I don't know if I know who the they is who's setting up the Undoing Racism workshops, for example, but maybe a city council liaison would be on top of that and let us know that kind of a thing. Anyway, so you just mentioned having also my remarks on these items. So those are the kind of things I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I just had a thought. This is kind of getting into the whole category of action plans, but there seems to be this ongoing theme of not having a tool for effective communication for everybody citywide. And everything seems to be focused on trying to link people to government and share information, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we've got this problem where we don't really have a tool. And I was just thinking, maybe it would make good sense, excuse the dog barking. Maybe it would make good sense if we could use resources to have a staff person, and we established a citywide email newsletter, and with the goal being of having everybody possible have an email subscription to a citywide newsletter, and we could communicate anything and everything about what's going on in the city via email to hopefully the vast majority of households in our city. Just a thought, like have people sign up for that, like do a real serious big campaign to get sign up for that sort of resource, and then have a staff person that's responsible for culling all that information and sharing it on whatever regular basis it seems appropriate. Weekly, bi-weekly, whatever. Sorry about the noise, I'm muting.
That sounds like a really good idea, Deb.
Emily, checking in with you. Any thoughts that you have about what's been discussed?
I had wanted to comment about Rebecca's thought, and my computer froze for a bit, that, yeah, we could each volunteer to be a liaison with a committee that we think would be, because we couldn't be a liaison to every committee because there's so many committees, but the ones that we think might be most applicable, or we rotate, whatever. And then another thing we could do is invite members of those other committees to come to meet with us, and just give us an update. To what Deb just said, I think that's a great idea. It would be nice if, every committee member in the city were to be sent, updates of the things that are, or I don't know, just like, I don't know how it would work, but then also new residents could be put on that list. Like somehow we have to get people to agree to be sent an email, obviously, right?
Well, I don't know. Are you guys familiar with Constant Contact?
To what?
It's a program called Constant Contact. It's a web-based communications system for, I'm going to put it for dummies, basically. You just fill it and go. People can subscribe in or subscribe out of the newsletter, etc. It manages it for you, and it's a relatively low-cost way to have mass communications like Deb is speaking of on an ongoing basis. And it's very little training. You could do a newsletter in about an hour or two a month, and it manages the emails kind of itself, or as you create the list, it self-manages.
Interesting. You all are probably aware of the newspaper called The Reminder, which has, was free. It's supported by advertising, and it was being delivered around Easthampton, and a lot of people got upset because it was just being dropped on their front yard. But I looked at it and I was like, great, because I learned so much about different committees. There seemed to be a real focus on Easthampton, and it also included Southampton and Westhampton and maybe Westfield, but like, wouldn't it be great if we just could get an Easthampton newspaper going, go back to the olden days? Because I do think people are, they're tired of so many, mass media, multimedia things. But they're also tired of paper. Yeah. Like Deb said earlier, it's a real societal conundrum, but yeah, and some people don't want to know what's going on in their community. They are sticking to their family or their work life, or it's tough. It's a huge dilemma.
I don't think COVID helps either in terms of
right.
People wanting to get out and find new ways of engaging and communicating. So
Emily,
I'm solidly hearing, going back to this list, the 4, 3, and 1 and 2, but not a lot of 5 and 6. So in regards to this near term, midterm, long term, what I'm hearing is that number 3, just the general information and communication process, is the most urgent need, just from my read of this discussion. The second urgent need is establishing the network and the connections, creating the liaisons or inviting liaisons or whomever within the city to educate the committee as well as the community at large. And then the last one is just, again, leveraging what's going on in the community, promoting it, co-sponsoring or whatever, however the committee may choose to support other things that are taking place within the community. For example, the Undoing Racism workshop, so that it maximizes. So I'm going to drop off the top 2 and focus on the communications, the networking, and the leveraging for action planning.
okay. So,
Thoughts, comments? Is that okay? Yeah, Jan?
yeah, I want to go back to something Emily said.
Okay.
And it had to do when she said about people who are new residents, right? Getting something out to them. Welcome, we are the CRC. Welcome to our neighborhood, so to speak. And oftentimes for many people that means a lot.
Yeah, it does.
To them. And I remember when I lived out in the Plains area of here in town, and this police officer showed up one day, knocked on the door. He said, and I used to work with him in school because he used to do our DARE program years ago. And he told us his name, and he had a birthday card for my son. And he had actually showed up on the day of my son's birthday. I think my son was maybe 5 at the time. And I was like, wow. And I didn't need to ask him, how did he know that? Because they have all our information. But I thought, wow, that's a really nice gesture. And he came back the next year too, so we only lived out there for like 3 years. But I thought, man, that's really something. Like, here's this guy. So we got to know who he was. But it was also just that gesture, just that piece in and of itself. And I had never experienced something like that before for a city representative of some sort to come to my door. And you don't have to come to my door. You can have got a letter or something like that. And I think for many people that has, like I said, a lot of meaning, especially when it's like, welcome to the neighborhood, and I think having something that's just a state, like, if you have any questions or whatever, what's going on here, please give us a call or email or whatever that would be. But I think that little thing, especially when you're new to a town, you don't have any idea what's happening here most of the time. And it's a way of making sort of a slight inroad. Into just the fact of like, hey, somebody said hello.
I don't know how people would do this in the past, but I remember when I moved here like 15 years ago that we got a packet with coupons and, it was like a welcome wagon.
Yeah, the value pack.
Isn't that? So yeah, that's old fashioned.
The Val pack or whatever it's called. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
But that old fashioned stuff still.
Oh no,
it still has meaning.
Yes. Well, also there was just a simple thing that was mailed to everyone. I don't know, umpteen years ago, at least 10 years ago. Just a piece of paper, a piece of like harder white, cardboard kind of paper that had significant numbers to use for getting in touch with different places in the town in Easthampton.
Mm-hmm.
And who the person's name was and the phone number. And that I use that often. Mm-hmm. It's defunct now, but it hasn't come out since that I know of.
Mm-hmm. Me either.
So
At one point,
Go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say, at one point long ago, in one of our brainstorming sessions, we had talked about trying to revive the welcome wagon thing. And not that we wanted to take it on just our small group and try to manage that ourselves and execute that ourselves, but see if we could talk with the Chamber of Commerce and some key groups in the city and see if we could get others to champion that, resurrect that cause and get that going again.
I am loving this conversation. The creative juices are definitely flowing. So here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to send you this slide presentation so that you'll have the top 5, some of these discussion bullet points, and then also send you a copy of the action planning template, and it'll list each of the 3 priorities that we've kind of reached consensus on tonight. We'll start with the first one, which is number 3. And if you'll indulge me, we'll just go through the complete action planning process with that item. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So yeah, so then I think I've accomplished at this point what I intended. I'm loving the conversation. I would encourage you to continue have it or go on with the agenda, but I will send this and then the action planning template. When we reconvene, everybody will have that template because it'll be easier to follow than on screen because my blocks are just too small to be workable. And we can complete that whole process. We should be able to get through most of the first issue, number 3, relatively quickly.
Okay.
So if there are no objections, I'll just put it out there. Tuesday nights are pretty good for me, so I'll leave it up to the committee to just notify me when the next meeting is. But immediately following this meeting, I will send the template and send this PowerPoint. If there's anything else I can provide, please let me know.
Okay. Thank you very much, Derek.
Yes, indeed. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Good seeing everyone. I will see you again.
All right.
Okay,
Take care.
you. Thank you, Derek.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Well, I feel good. I feel like we're making some progress. We're moving forward. That's great. Okay, moving on to the next item on our agenda. And that is an update on the conversation with the mayor about her thoughts and plans regarding the future of the CRC. And Patty sent that copy of the question she sent to the mayor after the conversation on the phone. Did everybody have a chance to look at that? Find it? Read it? Pretty much. So I guess I just wanted to summarize. I just did a lot of listening on that call, and Patty led that conversation with the mayor when we spoke on the phone. But I just wanted to summarize that I felt confident. I felt relieved and confident that the mayor very clearly, I thought, stated that we are going to be the group that decides what our focus is going to be, what our objectives are going to be, what our action plans are going to be. It's all going to be up to us to make those decisions. And there may be some recommendations coming out of her office as a result of the whole lengthy process she's been through, but that it's definitely going to be up to us is the message I got out of it, which to me was the most key piece of information. And then the other thing is the mayor clearly feels strongly that we need resources and maybe a staff person, I don't know, but we need resources to execute our plan, and that she intends to supply us with those resources. So it all sounded real encouraging to me. And that was kind of the key messages I got out of it. Does anyone have any questions, comments, anything to say about any of that?
Mm-hmm.
Did you get a sense of what the issue is about having new members appointed to this committee, though?
I guess she just feels strongly that at this point, she wants it to be clear exactly what our focus is going to be, what role we're going to play, exactly what being on the CRC is going to entail before bringing new people in. So she wants it to be very clear what our goals, our objectives, our action plans are, what our mission is, all of that. So that even people who are applying to be on the committee understand what it's all about, what the work is going to be like, what our focus is, so that we have the right fit. People are joining for the right match, purpose, and our goals. So that's basically, I guess, what I got out of that is just let's just wait to make sure we're going to match people correctly, that people are going to know for sure what they're signing up for, basically.
Okay. Okay.
Anything else? Any other questions? Anything? Would you like to have her come and speak to the group? Do you feel like we're good with information at this point? Are we?
Well, my question might be that after we move forward a little further, do we want to give her a report?
Correct.
I think that would be. I think that would be good. That's kind of what we were doing in the beginning, is we were periodically keeping her informed of like what we were doing, where we were at. I think that makes good sense. Yeah. So maybe just have a few more meetings and fleshing out some of our information and sharing that with her.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
After we get through the steps of like our strategic planning, we can inform.
Okay, that makes sense. Does anybody have any other, I mean, the door is open to follow up with any other clarifying questions on any of this information. Does anyone have anything specific that you want answered from her at this point in time that we could do via writing?
Well, two things, I guess. What might we have as our goal for having, our strategic plan more organized and clarified and on a piece of paper to then send to her? And then what is her time frame for making these suggestions around budget and potential staffing and et cetera? Because the mayor does things that we know nothing about until later, and the blueprint and the blah, 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 whatever else, I have no idea. So what is, and is this post-election in November that this information from her is going to come out? I don't really know what her timing and all that, whatever those things are. Mm-hmm. So, I guess, so the first question is, what do we see? I mean, here we are meeting the 3rd of August, and that's good because meeting in August is usually very hard to pull off. When do we think we're going to meet again? And do we want to have 2 more meetings? And I don't know. I mean, how do we want to do this? I'm going to certainly use the templates that Derek is sending to help think. But, and I kind of do wish we would feel like we need a work meeting. I don't know what that means exactly, but other than, this is sort of kind of like a work meeting, but we definitely need a work meeting or 2. And I'll try to, using the templates that Derek is going to send, just brainstorming those things with each other and filling in the blanks. So.
Okay. So yeah, I have a feeling that he has in mind that we would have like work session, brainstorming sessions with him coming up as our next steps. But we can always do that and not have regular meetings so that we can take everything else off the agenda and just focus on the topic at hand.
Right.
So
And
that's an option.
Derek could be part of it or not. You know, I mean, I thought, I mean, not that he should just go away indefinitely, but for us to kind of work on this number 3 and put that out there, you know, or meet with him and do it together. I mean, it doesn't matter. I just think it would be good to get, but what do we imagine? Do we imagine we're going to have our strategic plan by October, November? I mean, I have no idea.
Mm-hmm. So you're kind of wondering about what is our time frame going to look like based on what Derek has planned for us in terms of walking us through this process?
Well, I don't know what Derek has planned. I mean, he's basically saying, I'm going to send you these templates. Please look them over and use them. That's what I gathered when he said goodbye tonight.
Mm-hmm.
But I did, and he's available certainly. But,
Right. So I think his plan is that we'll get together again as a group with him, and we'll go through that process
with him
of working through the details, action plans for that particular number 3. We'll flesh it all out.
Okay.
Right, and maybe that, like you mentioned, that can be like a working meeting, so it's just that on the agenda.
Yeah, we could do that. We could just set it up as a work session, and then we don't have public speak. We don't have all the rest of this stuff. And we could just focus on that. Is that the desire of the committee?
Yes. I would
Okay.
like that.
Yeah, 'cause it seems like we can also, as you were saying, Margaret, like when, it seems like if it's done that way, and Derek, he sends the templates, we look at it, we sort of have some ideas that all of us together, and then Derek hopefully helps us to like sort of tighten that, and possibly by end of September, we have something solid to present.
Yeah. And we'll share with the mayor at that time. And in the meantime, you'd like a follow-up question to go to her to just get a better handle on exactly what is her planned timeframe for finishing up her side of all this and her recommendations and her plans with regard to resources.
Mhm.
Yes.
But when is she going to determine those? Or, I mean, I don't know if she's waiting for us to say what we're going to do and therefore what kind of money we want. And do we want somebody to be able to do all of this, kind of the culling of the information, whatever it is, how, you know, whatever that part is,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and yeah, just how she envisions that. I mean, that once we go through this next process with Derek, then maybe sending information to the mayor and getting information from her, or her attending one of our work group sessions for a little while to tell us what her plan her time frame looks like and her plans look like. Does that make any sense? I feel like we have to sort of work with her, but kind of in tandem with her, but that we don't have enough organized ourselves to really facilitate that right now.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so just to clarify, do you want me to reach out to her at this point and clarify her planned time frame for all of this on her end?
If she has one.
Okay, all right, so just see if we get more clarifying information on that. Okay. Everyone agrees on that? Okay. Myra, you're not nodding your head. Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, all right. Anything else on that general subject? Okay, moving on. Let's see. We have a discussion of the letter regarding the Pioneer Valley Healing Racism Institute that we got from Jenny Papa George. Rebecca, do you want to kick off that conversation?
Well, what I can say is that we received her letter. As noted previously, she said in it she wasn't sure if we were aware of the Pioneer Valley Healing Racism Institute. She thought it would be a good resource. She went through their program. when she was working in Springfield and found it to be incredibly impactful. It sounds like that program put people into some groups called a cohort. She was mentioning her cohort having some community activists, police, teachers, healthcare workers, nonprofit leaders, and business owners in it. She stays connected with many of them. She thinks it would be great to offer it to school leadership, our teachers, business owners, the police, and others in the community. She would be happy to talk with us about it and introduce us to Vanessa Ortero, who is their executive director, and she gave us a link to their website. So I think that in one of our meetings, it sounded like that's at least interesting to talk about. We're probably not ready to move forward with, let's say, an event, but that's a resource. And it may be that we want to take her up on that offer at some point. I don't know if others have familiarity with that organization. But anyway, so.
It's, Myra and Jan and I had a list of, organizations, and we can add that one. And then we just heard about the Undoing Racism workshops in October. I think we wasn't the forum subcommittee sort of put on hold until we figure out our strategic plan?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, do we know, Myra, do you know who organized the workshop that's in October?
I believe it's the mayor's office that's in communication about it. I believe that's the same one our lovely member of the public, Carolyn, spoke about last time. Hi, Carolyn. I know Kevin would like to say more. Is that fine?
No, I don't have anything more to say, Myra, other than you are saying it. It's the Undoing Racism. But I'm not clear. I looked at an email that I got. I'm not clear if there's more than one. If that October one is just for community members and there's another one for city employees, or what?
So Carolyn, it's on the city website?
No, I was just forwarded an email.
From the mayor's office?
It must have come through the mayor's office. I'm getting it, from the Kind network of we can sign up for this. It's from Lomax Campbell, who is, but writing to the mayor.
Lomax Campbell, it sounds to me like we should contact the mayor's office about this.
Yeah. Okay, I don't think we should go talk about it too much more either, because it's not on the agenda and we don't want to.
I just wanted to say that I think if we were strategic planning and there's something that we can tag along with, I think there's opportunity for like community participation, screen viewing, etc. That's falling in line with what we're signing up to do. So maybe we can just inquire.
Would anyone who would like to follow up on that? Margaret?
I would follow up on it.
Okay. And does anyone want to get any more information, look into the, just to have readily available for us, any more information on the Healing Racism Institute? Anybody want to take a look into that? See what we can learn about it easily?
I guess I'm reluctant because, Myra and I had developed this full list of like questions we were going to ask to know, to like really figure out in a nice objective way which organization would fit the best for what we need. And so if anyone volunteers, like I would want to send that list of questions that we had.
Well, do you want to just add this?
But then why don't we do that with all of the organizations that were on the list that Myra and Jan and I had developed, and are we going to go forward? And
how about this? I just suggest, why don't we just have you add these organizations to your list?
Right. That's what I think we should do.
Okay. Sounds good. Everyone seems to be nodding their head. Okay. Perfect. Any other comments about any of this? Okay. So do we want to adjourn? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Do we have a motion to adjourn? Do we have a second? Second by Myra. Okay. All those in favor, I'll read off the list. Rebecca Passa.
Yes.
Patty Dougherty's no longer here. Emily Britton.
Yes.
Margaret Kirstein.
Yes.
Jan Norman.
Yes.
Myra Oyedemi.
Yes.
Gabby's not with us, and I vote yes as well. So we are all
When is our
set.
next meeting before we?
Oh,
Sign off.
Oops.
Well, we just adjourned.
Good catch, Margaret.
Oops. Good point. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we all just voted to adjourn. All right. What do we do now?
And we're still, we refuse to leave.
Should it be asking an email? That way?
We're able to, you know what, though? The open meeting law allows us to talk about scheduling a meeting.
It does.
It does.
In an email. We can do that in an email.
I don't think it's so violative even to talk about it here, but either way, I'm good. Do you prefer by email? Are you happier that way?
All right. I'll tell you what. We'll say the meeting is adjourned officially, but we'll just hang out here for a minute because it is okay outside the meeting law to talk about scheduling. It's okay. So we'll say the meeting's officially adjourned, but before everybody goes, 1 second, let's just take a quick look at calendars. My apologies. Okay. So, do we want to try and meet in 2 weeks on Tuesday the 17th? Or do we want to go for the 24th or the 31st? Any thoughts?
I can't do the 31st. I could do the 17th or the 24th. Or like the 14th of September. Don't know.
17 or 24 is fine with me.
Okay, maybe I can ask for the 24th. The 17th is going to be a long day. That'll be my resuming work day.
Mhm. Mine's the 31st.
Oh,
So, Myra, you start on the 24th?
the 17th.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
That's why I'm thinking the 24th might be helpful.
Yeah, the 17th is trans performance at Look Park, which I try to go to. And I'm busy on the 31st, so I would say the 24th. That's what I would vote for.
All right, so it sounds like I'm hearing, I have a school building committee meeting at 5 o'clock on the 24th. Is there any chance we could make our meeting at 6:30 to help me participate more fully in that meeting before switching over?
No
Yes.
problem.
I like that better. Yep.
Okay, so we're going to target the 24th. Is that everybody's here in agreement on that? Okay. So we'll target the 24th and we'll go for 6:30.
And did we want that as a regular meeting or a work meeting?
6:30.
Like, 6:30 is fine. I just mean, would it be a work
Work
session?
meeting.
We'll go for a work session. Yeah, we'll just
And-
make it a work session.
And what do we do if Gabby can't make it, or are we invited, or Patty, or is Derek Dean invited to that one?
Yeah.
Yes. So we'll put this out there in an email and let them know of what we've proposed, what we're proposing, and we'll see if we're good from there with everybody else. How's that?
Okay.
They can reply, since again, we are allowed to communicate when it's about scheduling.
Yeah.
So they can reply and say, I can't do it, or I can, and then we can hopefully work it
Take
out.
it from there. How's that sound? All right, so we'll target the 24th. Okay, sounds good. Well, we already adjourned. Great to
Okay.
see you guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.